hate seeing that. Oh, that hurts my soul when I see that. You know, I've torn my quad on a staircase, but being on that kind of weight, oof. That was Yaroslav Radashkovich, and he is from Russia, and evidently he had a slight injury. He was in a powerlifting meet, and he said, I'm going for it, man. And he broke his tibia, it's a closed fracture, in 2 places, and broke his ankle at the same time. He's lucky he didn't hurt himself worse. Luckily, he was in one of those monolift, powerlifting, setups, so it's a little bit more safe if something goes wrong, and he had a lot of people around him. But, today's topic of the rant here is, what is it about bodybuilding and powerlifting that makes us want to push the limit to the point where we go to the brink of death sometimes, and danger? Well, as a bodybuilder, as a guy who always challenged himself in the gym and pushed myself to the limit, I can completely respect what this guy was doing. He was trying to set a record. He was lifting over 500 pounds. He had missed the 2 previous attempts, and he didn't want to give up. Now, granted, looking at his legs, they didn't look that big. But, I've seen guys that have smaller legs that are very strong. Sometimes it's stupid to try to lift weights that you're really not capable of. I have to believe that he felt that he was somewhat capable of doing this weight. If not, it was a foolish move. Now, one thing that you have to remember, it's all about putting your body on the line. It's always about, risking everything to try to, beat a record, to get bigger than you were before, to get stronger than you were before, to surpass a plateau that you might have. And I'm all for that. I believe that the best guys, the champions out there, all have put something on the line at one point or another. And sometimes we lose. Sometimes we win big. And that's what it's all about. It's about gambling. But there's calculated risks. And when you're getting under that kind of weight, okay, you have to, number one in your mind, know you can lift that weight. If you're not sure, okay, and you go under that bar with uncertainty, you're looking for disaster. And I believe that he wasn't sure he can do this weight. He had an ankle injury supposedly prior to this. Whenever you have an ankle injury, okay, now you're compensating in your foot positioning to try to find a comfortable position, which means that the muscles that normally bear that load are not doing so. So now you're changing the angles of the way the weight is distributed on your body, and you're asking for, obviously, for some kind of disaster to happen, which is exactly what did happen. I mean, 500 pounds is a lot of weight. When I weighed over 300 pounds, I moved 500 pounds relatively easy, but in relation to my body weight, that was nothing. This guy's a lot less than 300 pounds. His legs are far from muscular in terms of, girthness. And I just think that the bones, just split under the changing of the, once again, the angle of inclination, the angle of the force being generated on his body, and the weak link gave out, and that's what happened. And that was called poor planning. At some point you have to know when to say no, okay? I'm not ready to do it. This is not a safe move. I've had a couple points in my life where I did things where I just knew that they weren't right, and I should have backed away, and it turned into disastrous results. And I hit myself in the head. Before I tore my quad in India, when I was walking down the steps, I had a premonition that something wasn't gonna go right. But I was like, hey, I'm done with my workout, I'm walking down these steps, and sure enough, the steps were a spiral staircase, they were lined in marble, it was a wet spot on there, and I just slipped. And I said, you know what? Go back up the steps. I kept saying to myself, don't do this. You feel a little, tired, you jet lagged from the long flight, from America. Don't do it. And I didn't listen to myself. And there was only a couple times in my life that I've done stuff like that. Another time I was getting ready for a show, and I'm like, you know what? I don't feel like squatting. I'm gonna Smith machine squat. But I went too heavy. I wasn't used to the movement, and I almost tore my quad also. I pulled some fibers. So you gotta be very careful. This is a super dangerous lift because this guy's going for a max, a 1 rep max. You can't have any guy underneath you helping you because obviously it's at a meet, and everything goes terrible here. I mean, it's a horrifying thing to watch. I've watched it about 3 times now. I don't want to watch it any more than that because I can feel for the guy's soul in this. I mean, this has got to be traumatizing. This is the kind of thing you have nightmares about the rest of your life. I mean, because how do you get under a bar after this heals up, knowing that your body gave out on you essentially? It's a tough mental, pill to swallow. But the take-home message here is, guys, don't be stupid. Be ready to do these type of lifts. You should have this thing rehearsed in your head a million times. You should have done this weight before. Never, ever do a weight you've never done in competition if you've never done it in the gym, or at least done partials within the gym so that you know what it feels like. And if, God forbid, you're injured and you're not at 100%, never push it past your limit, because you're only asking for trouble. And once you injure yourself like that, you'll never be normal. I remember the first thing the doctor said to me, he goes, look, I can repair your quad, which they didn't do, but I'll repair your quad, but it'll never be normal. If you think it's gonna be normal, then your expectations are way too high. Because once we reattach that quad, once we fix a broken bone, it'll never be perfect, okay? And then you have to realize that. So before, putting yourself in harm's way, for the sake of not wanting to miss this meet or not wanting to miss this bodybuilding show, okay? Think twice about what you're doing and be safe about it, okay? There's nothing wrong with pushing the limits when the time is right, when the conditions that you have set up are right. When you push the limits like this, okay, it ends in disaster. And when it ends in disaster, you're gonna set yourself back anywhere from 6 months to a year in training. And believe me, you're gonna be very depressed after that. Seriously, my heart goes out to Yaroslav, and I hope you have a quick recovery. If you speak English, maybe we'll get you on the show. You can talk us through what happened, and I'd love to hear about your injury and your recovery from this injury and what your mental state is. I'm Dave Palumbo with another Redcon 1 RX Muscle Rant.